Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our second episode of the CKC's Food Diaries podcast. This is Maria,
Amelia,
Charlena,
and we're excited to be talking about, drumroll please, spring, along with the holidays associated with it during this month.
Okay, first up we have St. Patrick's Day. So there are a lot of traditional dishes and tons of food that you have to try when you go to Ireland. But the most common meal may include the full Irish breakfast, which includes rashers or back bacon, pork sausages, black and white pudding, grilled mushrooms and tomatoes, and eggs. There are also tons of different variations of bread, including soda bread, potato bread, blast, and bar bread. You should also try the different variations of potato: Irish stew, boxty, shepherd's pie, cocaine, coddle, carrageen pudding, Irish chowder, tea, fish and chips with salt and malt vinegar, and Sunday roast. Along with all these traditional foods, there are some food rules and traditions that one should not break. Number 1, never ask for the calorie count. Number 2, don't leave Ireland without trying all the different variations of bread. Number 3, make sure to make your tea right. And number 4, don't call crisps chips. And number 5, you must eat your Sunday roast without gravy. These all sound so good. Do you guys have any St. Patrick's Day experiences, like pre-quarantine?
Yeah, for sure. Personally, I think, I believe a couple years ago when my friends and I were at Central Park and just walking around Manhattan, we got to get a glimpse of the St. Patrick's Day parade that's held in New York City annually. And it was just so festive seeing like all the green, well, obviously all the green, but in general, seeing how everyone was so enthusiastic and happy as they celebrated this day with both, the traditional connotations and like the religious aspect of it, and also the more modernized perception of the holiday. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. And I remember when I was younger, I think it was probably in elementary school, my teacher brought in soda bread that she made for her family beforehand, and she allowed us to all taste it. And it was something that was definitely different. It actually tasted something similar to what my culture has. So that was definitely just an interesting experience to taste that. And it was offered like a glimpse into the traditional foods that are eaten during that day. And yeah, it was just a cool experience to immerse yourself into a culture that is typically not something that you do. Amelia, do you have any experiences?
Yeah, when I was little, my mom used to hide gold coins all around our house. And when we would wake up, she'd said that a leprechaun ran through our house. And I remember having so much fun, like going around and finding them and looking at like the clues that she left us. And it was always just a great day.
That's so cool. So it's like a scavenger hunt in a way. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's a part of it. And I remember how when we were younger, I'm pretty sure all of us probably drew leprechauns or had some sort of, art projects related to that, for sure. So yeah, that's definitely so cool. And it's great that your mom did it. Do you have, maybe with your other family members or siblings? So, yeah. Charlena, do you have any experiences?
I don't really celebrate holidays like St. Patrick's, but the most common consumption with St. Patrick's Day would be, the rainbow and then the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And when I was young, like all our friends would be like, whenever we see a rainbow, we'd be like, oh, do you think we can chase the end of it and then maybe find the pot of gold?
That's so cool.
All right, next.
Yeah, I think, yeah. No, I definitely think that, a lot of younger kids sort of attribute these fun activities, but it also is a great time to collect with your family if you do celebrate it. So, yeah.
Next, let's talk about Holi. Holi 2021 will begin on Sunday, March 28th, and end on Monday, March 29th. Holi is a popular ancient Hindu festival, also known as the Festival of Spring and the Festival of Colors, as well as the Festival of Love. This festival signifies the triumph of good over evil. Holi celebrates the arrival of spring, the end of winter, and the blossoming of love. And for many, it's a festival to meet others, play, laugh, forget and forgive, and repair broken relationships. People throw colored powders and water balloons, and Holi has become known as India's most vivid and colorful festival. How is it celebrated? On the eve of the festival, large fires are lit in many parts of India to signify the burning of evil spirits. People often throw wood, dried leaves, and twigs into bonfires. On the day of Holi, people rush out to the streets. And colored powder makes the streets and air turn red, green, and yellow. Each color carries a meaning. For example, red symbolizes love and fertility, while green stands for new beginnings. Later in the day, families gather together for festive meals, and it's also common to distribute sweet pastries and candy among neighbors and friends. Are there any surprising events or realizations that we have associated with Holi?
Yeah, I mean, I think recently I realized how widespread Holi is. I didn't know that. So personally, I know from the Ukrainian culture, a lot of the people who live in Ukraine are typically Orthodox Christians specifically. So they, typically celebrate those holidays. And I was just surprised to find that there's definitely a greater Indian population there. A lot of transfer students or international students who come to study there, they brought these traditions with them. And I saw this documentary of how people go out to the streets and they just like love celebrating this tradition of spreading literally colors and having the sentiments behind it of, forgiveness and expressing love and, just reminding yourself of that sort of playfulness. Obviously, even if not all the people who are participating are children. So it's definitely a great a time to notice how people accept these cultures. And personally, what I find interesting is just the way they use colors. We take a lot of things for granted around us. So like, music is something that we hear so commonly, and colors are something that a lot of us see commonly, and we don't really associate these things. So taking the time to even appreciate the fact that there are these colors and sort of, attributing some sort of deeper meaning to them is definitely interesting. And it's something that it's not necessarily typically, religiously connotated. So that's why a lot of people around the world celebrate it. And yeah, I just think that it's a unique way to definitely celebrate this holiday. So, and it's also really interesting just to see how everything turns out at the end. And how people bond. We're coming from New York City, so I don't remember seeing a lot of things in New York specifically that pertain to Holi, as we talked about previously with the annual St. Patrick's Day parade. But I do think that there are local communities, specifically in Queens, if you guys know where that is, where there are local festivals that celebrate this and honor this holiday. So, once COVID settles down, and hopefully it will in the coming, months or maybe years, you guys get to enjoy that when you're a little bit older with your parents or just with your friends.
Next, let's talk about Passover. There are certain rules that everyone has to follow when celebrating Passover. The celebration lasts for 8 days, or for 7 in Israel. There are certain restrictions on food, too. There are no grains that can ferment and become leavened, no cedar, no bread, certain meats such as pork, shellfish, lobster, shrimp, rabbit, seafood, and fish without fins or scales. Meat must not be eaten in combination with dairy. Some food essentials are cedar plate, matzah, shank bone to represent a Passover sacrifice, burnt, which are hard-boiled eggs to represent a festival sacrifice, green vegetables to represent spring, bitter herbs or horseradish to represent the bitterness of slavery, charoset to represent the mortar used by slaves to build the pyramids.
Yeah, so Passover is definitely it's a Jewish holiday that marks a lot of the religious events that happened that are associated with that religion. And we do have a lot of people in America who celebrate this holiday. So it's definitely common to see these foods, especially if we have friends who celebrate this. And it's definitely a great opportunity to learn about a specific culture if you have the chance to talk to people who celebrate this specific holiday, or if you celebrate it yourself. So now we wanted to talk about another major world religion and the way they celebrate what's happening in March, specifically Christianity. So Palm Sunday, which is the holiday that transitions into Easter, is typically it's considered to be a fest that commemorates Christ's triumphant entry into Jerusalem and the resurrection of Lazarus. as these two feasts are linked in the Holy Bible. And today at church, people are given bay leaves and woven palm crosses that are placed in bags in front of the icon of the Lord. And then these palms are distributed to the faithful. So they're typically prayed upon, and they use special holy water on it in certain branches of Christianity. And then those like the palm crosses are taken back home, and they sort of they symbolize this religious purity that happens a couple weeks before the actual Easter celebration occurs. So in Greece, bakariros, which is fried sold cod, is a traditional Palm Sunday meal. And although Lent generally discourages people from eating anything alive, including fish, fish is served on Palm Sunday because it does have several connections to biblical stories. And Palm Sunday is actually celebrated among all the branches of Christianity, but the two main ones that still hold up to today, if any of you have ever listened to this in your history classes, are Orthodox Christianity and Catholic Christianity. So Orthodoxy and Catholicism are similar in that they believe in the same basic principles that are outlined in the Bible, along with the Old and New Testament, but they do celebrate things a little bit differently. Specifically, Orthodox Christians, they do celebrate Palm Sunday along with actual Easter, approximately a month or a couple of weeks after Catholics generally celebrate Easter, due to the fact that they follow different calendars. So Orthodox Easter always falls later than the Catholic one because it is calculated using the same formula, but they use the Julian calendar. Whereas the other one uses the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so these differences are minimal, but they do serve as a prominent distinction between those two religions, and that goes for a lot of other holidays, such as Christmas as well. And now, finally, the last holiday that we want to talk to was not religious. It's a general holiday, and it's called the spring equinox. So the vernal or spring equinox marks the first day of astronomical spring. So this year it falls on Saturday, March 20th, which passed a couple days ago in the Northern Hemisphere, and it will continue all the way until the summer solstice, which takes place on Monday, June 21st, 2021. And typically it's just a symbolism of things getting warmer and the celebration of transitioning into spring, both spiritually for some religions and some cultures, as well as physically as we start getting into warmer clothing, depending on where we live, and just acting differently and doing other activities outside. Although even now, the restrictions still apply, given the current pandemic situations that we are in. But typically, spring is definitely something to look forward to, as it's one of the seasons that are associated with rebirth and happiness. Do you guys have any experiences with the spring equinox, or anything that you or your family, might do?
I don't really have any experiences with it, but I think it's really interesting that there's a day to celebrate the transition. And I think you can notice too, as we transition to spring, people's moods are kind of up, and there's more people outside, and it even especially in these times with the pandemic and everything, it feels more like a community than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And also the actual seasonal changes, we get to see how more flowers are blooming, and how the bare trees gain their leaves once again. And that's actually a lot of cultures, they do celebrate that, the fact that the earth is actually changing, and how the planet is just, growing back again from the cold, harsh, and bare winter. Mm-hmm. Okay, everyone, so that wraps up this segment of the CKC's Food Diaries podcast. We look forward to being with you during the next episode.